Hannah Jenkins speaks British in the night and Deutsche in the afternoon. He's not a usual she chose to accept, but thing her marrow requires her to do. It all begun in a biking crash. Her affiliate Andrew Wild was half up a mount in the U.S. country of Montana while he acquired enigmatic lyrics of Hannah. He understood just two speech, hound and clinic, but knew intuitively thing was incorrect. The lyrics was in Deutsche, a tongue Hannah had grown up in, but Andrew didn't very know. They just always reported in British. Hannah had stayed at household in the UK, fleeing the hound training industry she'd set up in Wokingham, Berkshire, time Andrew had lost to the US to boat train for an World Survey contest. He named Hannah's portable quantity, but got no answer. In increasing anxiety, he begun to telephone hospitals about Berkshire but couldn't get any data. He knew he necessary to get household. He done his way to the aeroport, uncertain of which would be wait for him while he refundable. Which he didn't wait to discover, was a various Hannah to the one same D kissed farewell days over. Hannah had been biking via a garden close their household the day up she shipped the lyrics to Andrew. She'd round a known angle and collided in else bicyclist. She remembers slight, but paramedics include with imbued her in, the some bicyclist saw her lie immobile and hemorrhage on the land and named disaster services. He waited for assist to come, said them same D been biking no more rapid rather than 32 km/h, 20 mph, later leftward, out of give her any more than data. An air emergency was named for Hannah, who had been identified of items in her purse. It was concern and go if she would pull through. Hannah ultimately came to on a lively chamber in the King Berkshire Clinic in no concept wherever she was, which had happened or reason, in her reason, not one tell British. I couldn't know whatever, she says. I felt as although I'd roused up in a overseas nation and I couldn't know why human beings weren't talk to me in a way how I could know. Doctors tended to her in the strange tongue. Eventually she recognized which she mind was behalf and day of childbirth, and readable how to nobody who close. It seemed love the order item to do. The doctors were perplexed as Hannah's documents all sharpened to the reality she lived and treated in the UK. They knew she was named Hannah Jenkins, and yet she didn't know or answer to British. They contacted her following of family, her sibling Margaret, who requested to say to Hannah. As Hannah sat in her clinic bed she chatted off on the telephone, lightweight how she was eventually capable to talk in who. This stunned doctors, since previous she had just spoken the strange, illegible speech. Hannah had so lot questions for Margaret, one of them creature why the doctors weren't talk to her in British. They are, Hannah, her sibling replied. The collapse, it seemed, had knocked together Hannah's expertise of British precise out of her reason. But she was leftward in the Deutsche how she had learned as a kid, the tongue how she defaulted to while talk to her sibling. This doctors didn't aware I could say Deutsche, Hannah explains. It wasn't before they tell to my sibling how they implemented. The sisters were driven up in the UK talk Deutsche and British, by linguist parents. Their Austrian mom tell 4 persons languages and their dad, a tongue tutor of Wales, tell 7. Deutsche was my at first verbal tongue, says Hannah. It was a guideline we had in my building, how while we say to my household he's ever in Deutsche, fair to hold the tongue crisp in our heads. I couldn't get my chief about the reality how in the clinic they were talk British. My marrow had lose my capacity to know how. Hannah was testing thing named second tongue losing, on to advisor brain surgeon Colin Sheaf, who is as well guardian of marrow trauma mercy progress. Ours brains are really susceptible and whatever how has the capacity to bother the machine in any way can potential effect on the speech upcoming of, he says. Down there is no algo how would pursue how a particular trauma will always outcome in the losing of Deutsche nouns or British grammarian, but we do Mississippi such bits. He says the skills scientific in infancy are such largest potential to be held, the capacity to say affirmative or not or though to reiterate a kennel rhythm. He says thing has been entrenched for always, is more than potential to stay untouched and such skills scientific after, are the at first to go. Why did Hannah Mississippi her speaking? The natural effect of the collapse was minimum, a beaten leg and a ulcer arm, so Hannah was unloaded during days. But via her sibling, who acted as her interpreter, she learned how her marrow trauma was considerable and would get quite rather than months, to enhance. She went household and waited for Andrew. I was auditory to the wireless a many, she says. I don't aware how lot I understood, but while my affiliate came house while I scientific how ill the tongue was struck. The pair had been along for 8 years, but now Hannah couldn't know Andrew, and his high school Deutsche just got him so distant. They invented brush signals and their own release of mark tongue. As period went on, Hannah spelled British superior quicker rather than the talk. While the communicating very ruined, we did refuge to written material downward and texting or emailing every some, although we were in the identical chamber, she says. My relation in Andrew has been struck since you can't not say to every some fair since thou re weary or by blood pressure possessing how forbearance for the position is ever a slight bit of a fight. But I surely couldn't include made it out of him. Andrew took an 18-monthly Saturday of his job to supporting Hannah. Slow she regained lot of her British tongue, but he's thing how though currently, 3 year on, has not refundable fully. It has now be her other tongue. I'm penalty in the mornings, but by the afternoon the tiredness very kicks in and I select her in my reason to thought in Deutsche. I'll compose slight notes to myself in Deutsche, and I fair kind of nearly force downward how portion of my marrow how deals in communicating, so how in the night while my affiliates behind I can talk once again. The pair as well had to go to regulation in the reality how Hannah's identity would be potential to changing as a outcome of the collapse. She was said she might not be the identical man position accident. I believe how's the tough portion to get yours chief about, she says. He's nearly love you include to go via a heavy loss trial to say farewell to the old thou, up you can get to aware the new thou yet down there is how standard of indignation down there to begin in. I was fight how rather a lot and proverb, not, I'm yet me, don't be stupid, the is who I ever am. Hannah has recognized a few thin changes in her identity, she's not as patient as she one day was, thing how led her to shut her industry. I forgot so lot of the theoretical over it, my reactions are a lot slower and I don't include the guile of tongue how you requirement while you include to speak human beings how the isn't the order dog for them. She has undertaken up photo and artwork, thing she investigated at college, and has deserted herself in a new kind of sports to enhance her attention, survey. Survey has been outlined as qualified meditation technique, and I believe how is really real since you include to attention fully on which thou remaking. If yours marrow goes off and ruminates or meanders later yours shuts do the identical. To begin in I could just do it for on 20 protocol, and now I'm up to on an time and a half. The collapse on an October afternoon in 2015 changed Hannah's lifetime, tongue and identity, but it is thing too that she has scientific to adjust. Mental I include to see how the is me currently, she says. I'm lucky in my own leather once again. So down there's no cause why I can't fair run in lifetime as I am currently. Illustrations by Katie Horwich.